I have a question for you, and just answer honestly. Picture the absolute worst thing you could say to your boss.
Okay.
I mean, the real break glass in case of emergency insult, the one we all call the nuclear option,
Hmm.
specifically the C word. Now, logic would say that if you drop that word on your manager, you're fired instantly.
Oh, absolutely. That is the standard assumption.
Mhm.
In most workplaces, that's what we'd call gross misconduct. It's a one-way ticket out the door.
Right. That's what I thought. You drop that bomb, security's walking you out. But we have a case today that completely flips that on its head.
We do. And it hinges on, I think, one of the most bizarre legal defenses I have ever come across in employment law.
This is not a defense like, oh, I didn't say it or it was a slip of the tongue. This is an actual legal ruling from early 2026 where that specific word was legally defined not as a threat, but as, and I'm quoting here, an appeal to karmic intervention.
It sounds like something from a TV show, doesn't it?
It really does.
But it's very real. It's a binding decision, and it opens up this fascinating conversation about our rights at work.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are wading into the messy, complicated, and yeah, sometimes downright hilarious world of unfair dismissal.
It's a world where what you actually say often matters less than how the company handles it after you've said it.
We have got a stack of case files and articles here from the Australian Workplace Discrimination Representatives, or AWDR. They're a firm of workplace relations specialists.
Right, they're not lawyers, but they fight for employees in these exact situations. And they've highlighted some truly wild cases.
So our mission today is to figure out where that line is. When does behaving badly, misconduct, justify being fired on the spot? And why does this thing called procedural fairness so often trump the actual insult?
It's the key to everything.
Okay, let's get into it. We have to start with the main event. The case is Mrs. Tamara Depp v. Oz Seaside Hair and Beauty Putti Ltd. This was up in Queensland.
That's right. And this is just a classic small business dispute that completely spiraled. So you've got Tamara Depp, a senior hairdresser, and Nikki Reed, the salon manager.
And anyone who's worked in a service job knows that Saturdays are the pressure cooker. It's just nonstop.
Exactly. And the context here is so crucial. The law rarely looks at an incident in a vacuum. The relationship between these two was already breaking down. Tamara had actually already been given notice.
Oh, so she was already on her way out.
Yes, she was working out her notice period, which is always an awkward time.
You're a lame duck with a pair of scissors.
Precisely. So a dispute kicks off over a client booking. Tensions rise.
But the real fireworks, the thing that gets us here, that happens a couple of days later, right?
Yes. During another argument, as she's leaving, she looks at the manager and she delivers the line. She says, "I hope karma gets you like the cax you are."
Oof. Okay. I mean, that's not polite.
No,
Yeah.
definitely not. And the employer, Seaside, they reacted exactly how you'd expect. They revoked her notice period and moved straight to summary dismissal.
And just to be clear, summary dismissal is different from a normal firing.
Oh, massive difference.
Yeah.
Normal dismissal might involve warnings. You get notice pay.
Yeah.
Summary dismissal is the capital punishment of the workplace. It's immediate, reserved for really serious stuff.
Like theft, fraud, violence.
Exactly. So the employer argued that her sentence, that karma line, was a direct threat to the manager's safety.
And this is where it gets weird.
This is where the Fair Work Commission looks at that sentence and says, nah.
How? I mean, how do you look at that and say, not a threat?
It's a remarkable piece of legal interpretation. The commission said that while the words were, and they used the word profane, they were rude, offensive. Sure, they were not threatening.
Because of the karma bit.
Because of the karma bit. The commission basically deconstructed the grammar of it all. To threaten someone implies you are going to do something to them. I'm going to get you.
Right. It requires your own agency.
Exactly. But saying, I hope karma gets you, well, that removes the agency from the speaker. She was, and this is the quote, making an appeal to karmic intervention.
An appeal to karmic intervention, that is just, it's incredible.
She was leading the punishment up to the universe,
Yeah.
not saying she would do it. And so legally, it wasn't a threat of physical harm.
That's absolutely wild. It feels like a get-out-of-jail-free card. Your Honor, I wasn't threatening him. I was just making a spiritual petition.
It sounds absurd, but linguistically, you can see their point. And that distinction matters in law. But, and this is a huge but, that's not the only reason she won.
Yeah, I feel like there has to be more to it. What actually saved her?
This brings us to the bread and butter of these cases. It wasn't just the word. It was procedural fairness.
Procedural fairness. It sounds kind of boring, but this seems to be where employers always trip up.
It's the most common pitfall. In Australia, you can have a totally valid reason to fire someone, but if you do it the wrong way, it can become an unfair dismissal. The how is just as important as the why.
So what did Oz Seaside do wrong?
Almost everything, procedurally. First, the investigation, or really the lack of one. The owner wasn't there. They didn't talk to witnesses. They just relied on the manager's vague recount over the phone,
So one phone call, and she was fired.
essentially. And the commission found the manager's own evidence was imprecise. Meanwhile, they found Tamra, the hairdresser, to be a reliable witness.
She owned it, didn't she?
She did. She admitted she swore. She said, this is bold. But because the employer never gave her a right of reply, they never actually heard her side of the story before pulling the trigger.
That's the right of reply. Explain that.
It's a fundamental right. Before you can fire someone, you have to sit them down, you present the allegations, and you have to say, this is what we think happened. What do you have to say?
You have to ask them.
You have to. All Seaside didn't do that. They just fired her.
And they tried another trick too, right? A technicality. They tried to say she hadn't even worked there long enough to make a claim.
Ah, yes. The jurisdictional objection. So for small businesses, you generally have to work there for 12 months before you can claim unfair dismissal.
And the salon had new owners, so they argued she'd only been there 6 months under their ownership.
That was the argument. She's a new employee. She has no rights. But there's something called the transferring employee rule.
So the clock doesn't just reset.
The default is no. Unless the new owner explicitly tells you in writing before you start working for them that your prior service does not count, then your entire service history just transfers with you.
Wow. So if you've been somewhere for 10 years and a new company buys it, you're still a 10-year employee unless they put it in writing.
Correct. And Oz Seaside failed to do that. So her clock didn't reset. She had the seniority, and she had the right to sue.
It just seems like a series of unforced errors from the employer.
That's what the commission found. They said there was no valid reason for the summary dismissal because it wasn't a threat, and the process was completely flawed.
So she won. Does she get a payout?
She did. Reinstatement was off the table.
Yeah. I can't imagine going back to work after the whole karma thing.
No, the relationship had irretrievably broken down, so she got compensation instead. About $1,700 plus superannuation.
It's not a lottery win.
It's not. But it covers the lost wages. And it's a moral victory. It's a legal finding that she was treated unfairly.
Okay, so that's the hairdresser. That's, punching up a frustrated employee, lashing out at a manager. But does this work for everyone? What if you're a high-level executive?
Well, let's pivot to our second case. This one is from January 2026. Bradley Duff versus Commonwealth Bank of Australia.
The big end of town.
Very much so. Bradley Duff was a director managing a lending portfolio worth over $150 million.
So high stakes, high stress.
Extremely. And he was fired for swearing at a junior colleague.
What did he say? Was it another appeal to karma?
Not quite. He told a junior colleague to calm the fuck down.
Okay, calm the fuck down. I mean, it's aggressive, but compared to the C word, it feels almost tame, especially in a bank.
You would think so.
Yeah.
But context is everything. The bank fired him for it. They also accused him of standing over the staff member, being physically intimidating.
Ah, okay. That changes things.
It does. And Duff's defense was interesting. He admitted to the swearing, but he argued, one, he was under extreme stress and had warned management, and two, the culture argument.
What's that?
He claimed that profanity was just commonplace at the bank, that everyone swore and he was being singled out.
The old everyone else is doing it defense.
It can work
Yeah.
if you can prove inconsistent treatment. But there is a massive difference here between Duff and the hairdresser, Tamra.
The power dynamic.
Exactly. Tamra was swearing at her manager.
Yeah.
Powerless. Punching up. Bradley Duff was a director, swearing at a junior.
Punching down.
Yes. And when a boss swears at a subordinate, especially with that added intimidation factor, it stops being just profanity. And it starts to look a lot like workplace bullying.
Right. It's about intimidation.
Precisely. Which is why that case is in mediation now. But the lesson is so clear. The C word might be okay for a hairdresser to say to a boss under very specific flawed circumstances, but the F word can end a director's career if it's said to a junior.
It really shows there isn't just a list of banned words. It all depends on who you say it to, why, and crucially, what the company does next.
And how they investigate it. You can bet the bank had all their ducks in a row. Oz Seaside did not.
Speaking of how companies react, we've focused on swearing. But looking through these AWDR files, that's really not the only way people are treated unfairly.
Not at all. Swearing is the flashy headline, but the real landscape of workplace rights is so much broader.
Let's run through a couple of key terms. What is constructive dismissal?
That's a sneaky one. That's when you're not actually fired. Instead, your employer makes your life so miserable that you have no choice but to resign.
They force you to quit so they don't have to pay you out.
Exactly. But the law sees through that. If you can prove you were forced out, it's treated just like a dismissal.
Okay, what about general protections or adverse action? That sounds really technical.
It is, but it's so powerful. Unfair dismissal is about being fired harshly. General protections is about being punished for exercising a workplace right.
Give me an example.
Let's say you ask your boss about your pay being short. The next day, you're fired. Or you join a union, and suddenly all your shifts get cut. That's adverse action. You're being punished for doing something you are legally allowed to do.
That seems like a really dangerous trap for employers to fall into.
It is, because the burden of proof actually flips.
Yeah.
The employer has to prove they didn't fire you for that reason. If their records aren't perfect, they lose.
And non-genuine redundancy. I feel like we're hearing that a lot lately.
We are. A genuine redundancy is when the job itself is no longer needed. A non-genuine one is when they say, sorry, your role is redundant, and then next week they hire someone else with a new title to do the exact same work.
The old switcheroo?
Correct. Or if they failed to consult you properly. If it's not genuine, it's an unfair dismissal.
Now, dealing with this stuff, it's intimidating. Most people probably just think, well, I'm fired, that's it.
And bad employers bank on that. They bank on you not knowing your rights.
That's where groups like AWDR come in. And you said they aren't lawyers.
No, they're workplace relations representatives, they're specialists. Because they aren't a traditional law firm, they can operate a bit differently. They're available 24/7.
And I saw on their site they mention no win, no fee for some claims.
Yes, for unfair dismissal and sexual harassment claims. It just lowers the barrier. If you've just lost your job, you can't afford a huge legal bill up front.
But there is a catch, a huge one, the timeline.
This is the most important thing for anyone listening to remember. You have 21 days.
21 days from when you get the news.
From the day your dismissal takes effect. And that is a hard deadline. Calendar days, not business days. If you wait 3 weeks to think about it, your window could be shut forever.
So if you get fired, you grieve for a day, and then you get the paperwork in.
Basically, yes. Do not sit on it. Lodging the claim stops the clock.
So what does this all mean for us? For the person listening right now who might be a bit fed up with their boss.
Look, the takeaway is not that you should go out and call your boss a profane name and appeal to karma. I strongly advise against that.
Spoil sport.
I'm the voice of reason. The takeaway is that employment law protects the process. You can be a difficult employee, you can make a mistake, but you still have rights. A right to a fair hearing, a right to respond.
And for the employers listening,
document everything. Follow the procedure. You cannot fire someone on a whim. If Oz Seaside had just followed a simple process, they probably could have fired her legally. They lost because they rushed.
it's a great reminder that being right about the insult isn't enough if you're wrong about the law.
Precisely. And for employees, keep your own records. Diaries, emails, timesheets. He or she with the best notes often wins.
So true. Before we wrap up, I have to go back to the karma thing. It's stuck with me.
It is the gift that keeps on giving.
It raises such a strange question. If karmic intervention is a valid defense because you're not threatening someone personally, where does that line stop?
What do you mean?
Well, what if you sit at your desk with a voodoo doll of your colleague? You're not touching them, you're just poking the doll.
Mhm.
Or you start loudly manifesting that your boss's big project fails. Is that workplace bullying? Or is that just a spiritual practice?
That is a terrifying thought. I suspect if you are bringing a voodoo doll into the office, you are probably creating what we call a psychosocial hazard and a hostile work environment.
Fair enough. Okay, I'll leave the voodoo doll at home.
Please do.
That's all for today's deep dive. We'll catch you next time. Watch your language, trust the process, and maybe don't leave your fate entirely up to the universe.